So, welcome, beautiful souls, to Diary of a Sleeping Goddess. This one is completely straight out of meditation. For those the video, you can see I'm in my bathrobe. This is like proper diary right now. And I have literally been in like a couple of hours, it must have been, of meditation and just been shown the most pure, just the most divine, beautiful innocence that is the feminine and the masculine, and how they return back in sacred union in ourselves as we hold both the divine feminine and masculine within us, and with man and woman as well. And that's, where do I start with this? Okay, so it started off with, we are coming up to the summer solstice, which for me is very powerful, very strong. It seems to be this fire that it comes up to light. And the words were where earth meets the sun. And so this is where the feminine meets the masculine. And how she calls that fire of the sun, of the masculine, to her to be received. And through doing so, she is given the nutrients for her to grow, the strength, the opportunity to really expand and radiate. So if you think of a rose, everything starts to bloom around June time. This is when things start to truly show themselves. So you've gone through the winter, we've gone through the sowing the seed of what we desire, the spring of really creating the earth and making sure that everything is in alignment to allow that growth to come forwards. And up comes the summer solstice, where it really truly starts to begin and to blossom. And I just saw that rose just opening and awakening to the sun in her full radiance and her beauty. And for her to do that, for us women to be that, we have to feel safe. We have to feel completely safe to allow ourselves to blossom, to bloom, to radiate, and to not fear that it will get taken from us and exploited from us. And you have to see that in terms of how the women have been treated. And what was interesting, and I remember listening to something that it was about the reflection of how much control a man has will be how the women express themselves. And so, and that makes sense when you look at what the clothing of what women will wear, and you look at the most repressed now in Afghanistan and these places where they shut the women down because they have no control. They have no self-authority. They have no respect for what the divine feminine is. But yet they are the most lost souls on this planet. We heard about the Motherless website, where millions of views of how a man can rape their wife through drugging them. And and why it's called motherless is precisely because they are so disconnected from the divine feminine, from earth. Look at how man exploits the earth to greed, for all the corruption and for the minerals, and how that is bringing in destruction. There's no care for the beauty that is the feminine, for earth, for women, and the innocence that that carries. And so with the work that I've been doing through Daughters of the Golden Rose, has been really about healing the nervous system to be able to bring back the masculine, to call the masculine back, to call the masculine out, and to call the masculine back. But we can only do that when we're safe to. When we've gone through that whole process of connecting to the trauma, to the oppression, to the absolute fire and rage of self-love, and coming into the summer solstice now, it's all about heart, it's all about fire. And again, in the good old collective, we see it as hate, as riots, as burning, and racism, and like the whole negative aspect of that. Because there's no control, there's no respect. It's rendered in fear. And then you can have that same fire energy in love, unconditional love, where you awaken to who you truly are, to that power of rage, of conscious rage. The difference is when it's acting out in anger, it's fear. When it's processed consciously, it's love. It's that love of self going, I deserve better. I'm so much worthy of more. And it may be a voice that we never heard before. That depth we might feel deep in our yoni and deep into our womb that says, I'm worthy of so much more. Um, and it's that point where we start to break the victim energy. We break free from that victim, martyr, perpetrator energy. And where we finally go, fuck this. It's just like, fuck this shit. I am not doing this. I'm not going to be the people pleaser. I'm not going to sacrifice my inner peace to keep the peace. Because when you learn to heal your nervous system, you don't have to hold on to the peace to keep the harmony so you feel safe. Because that would have been a learnt pattern that you'd have done as a kid. And to as an empath, you take it all on, and you'd have taken it all on as your problem and as your fault, because that's what you've learned to do, because that was your way of trying to find control in the situation. Otherwise, sometimes we just find no control and we just lose ourselves entirely. And so this whole process of the Daughters of Golden Roses, that deep, deep healing of the nervous system, and to recognize where we lose our energy, where we give it out, where we lose it through fear, where we martyr our energy, over giving, over pleasing, not being able to say no, not being able to speak our boundaries and our voice, because our yoni and our voice, our throat and our womb actually they are interconnected. You'll find that actually when you open up your voice, I'm being shown this. A lot of this I'm being shown, not necessarily experienced. I'm just going to put that caveat just there. But which is interesting, because sometimes you think, oh, how can I talk about it if I'm not doing it? But what I'm being shown is how you embody it and how you feel it in your body. That feels completely true. And then through that, you bring it to you. You hold it energetically and physically into your body, and through manifestation, not in terms of what it's said out there. I'm conscious of using that word. This is more about you start embodying and calling it to you. So there's no gap between what you're desiring and what you're receiving. So you're in this complete embodiment of what you desire. Okay. This is desire embodiment. It's like you're navigating the quantum field, and you're calling it and you're creating it and you're bringing it into matter, into physical form, through first embodying the feeling and the sensation of that. And so, like I said, I've been shown that we can really bring in what it is that we desire, and allowing ourselves to feel it first. And what I'm being shown is through that nervous system, when we've done that healing, when we've released those protective patterns that we have created to survive. And for me, I was shown right in the back of my heart, not my heart exactly, behind my heart. So it was hidden very well. And to my spine, it was this protection of the woman that has been abused, and she's had to protect. But by doing that, she's also blocked her joy and receiving the joy, receiving the divine masculine, the pure masculine, not what we may have experienced. And so when we can move through our nervous system to come out of fight, flight, fawn, friend, whatever it is that we've accustomed ourselves to do to survive, and to choose our joy, to choose the feminine, the divine feminine, we enable ourselves to receive something far greater. And what we actually truly desire is to be seen, to be heard, to be valued, to be honored. And with the meditation that I've experienced this morning is very quickly dropped in, and I could feel Sophia was with me, and Yeshua and Mary Magdalene, the beautiful twin flames, the sacred union there. And it was it's like they were either side and Sophia was coming forwards. And it was just showed me bliss and purity and innocence and calm and that regular doing that we are in all the time. And what do I need to do? And it's just like, no, just sit, come to self, come into body, receive. And I know when it's pure because I generally tend to get emotional and cry a little because there's just that joy of that connection, that unconditional love. It's just really pure and beautiful. So I know I'm connecting to the heart of souls when I'm doing that. And what did she? It was just showing the union that you would bring the feminine back with the masculine. It's showing me, like I say, earth meeting the sun. And it's the fire that is the wild feminine, letting her out of your sacrum, out of your womb, that this force, this energy, this fire that she is. And through all the shame and the guilt and the suppression and the abuse and the mocking, actually, and the God, I can't even think of the right word, but it's that real slaying of the yoni and that discrediting, and that's yeah. What it showed me the other day was, if you watch Carrie, the movie, where the essence of it was literally how she had trusted this guy, and through doing that and opening and allowing herself to be seen in her, and she was beautiful, she was then mocked and taken down in that, and the betrayal of that. And I could felt that shock of what that would have been when you have been able to open up, and yet all of a sudden you're just taken down. And how that sat very deeply in my yoni, in my gut, like it pulled my heart in. It's like, wow, wow, that's the shadow. There's this deep shadow right there that's holding one back from being the full expression of self, because the fear of being mocked and abused and ridiculed, that's the word, um, that would literally just cut one down. Like, how do you get back up from that? And so it's so interesting that that was shown. And that was also like showing male and female that can do that, for a woman that wants is choosing to step up into her radiance and her power, and how she entrusts and then becomes betrayed and becomes ridiculed. So I feel like I'm being revealed so much. It's like I say, this fire that's waking up in us may come up as feeling quite chaotic right now, because it's like, because wild feminine is the chaos. She is the chaos because she's breaking down compliance so we can come back into our natural coherence. This is what I see menopause as. It's like this massive woof. We think we're losing our shit and don't know who we are, and our head and everything else. But that's because the wild feminine's trying to find her place, and she's going, fuck this shit. I'm gonna just burn this shit down. And we're like, the nervous system's going, yeah, but that's my safety, that's my known, and I don't like you doing that because I don't know what else I can have. And so by doing this work for our nervous system, enables us to be able to embody the wild feminine. And she's fucking gorgeous. And she's going to bring so much joy, so much bliss, and so much pleasure. And that's ultimately what we desire, let's face it. To be seen, to be heard, to be witnessed, to be revered. And not in like, I am greater than thou at all, but it's just like, can you feel this beauty? Am I safe to fully resonate this beauty? And so this is where we're going. This is what the rose is. And yeah, it's just incredible what was then shown was that how then the wild feminine, when she embodies her wild feminine, when a woman embodies her wild feminine, her fire, okay? And she's gone through the fire process of burn this shit down. I'm not going to tolerate any crap. She then embodies her grace, her fire, and her water. It's like, okay, because you can't stay in fire because you'll just burn everything fucking down, right? There'll be nothing left. But you've got to burn what doesn't serve anymore and not stay in the fire of protection because then that's just going to inflame your body and just create too much heat. Okay, everyone with the hot flashes, right? Feel sound familiar? That anger, that frustration, and all that jazz, basically. So we have to have done the processing of forgiveness. We've had to have moved through that. We've had to have taken the gold from the insights of everything and what we discern, what do we hold on to, what do we let go of, where's the intelligence, where's that innate, that's the gold, that's the daughters of the golden rose. And so, that is you reclaiming your wisdom, your insight. You've broken free from the victim and you've had to go through the whole processing of it to come to self-liberation, to embodiment of self and knowing your boundaries. You've called in your masculine of protection, of discernment. You're going, bollocks to anything else that isn't alignment to my truth and to who I am. And here is my truth. I can speak my truth. So all of a sudden you become the gatekeeper, the protector, the vessel that holds the gatekeeper of your truth and who you are. You hold that for yourself. And it's just like, yeah, I can speak my truth. I am safe to speak my truth. I am safe to want my desires and I'm safe to speak them. And this is like now allowing that wild feminine, that rose to truly start to bloom and unapologetically as well. And when the woman, when we have embodied that, then we call the masculine back, okay? And we speak in truth. We speak in forgiveness and the desire to return to what is pure. So the beyond us and our desires is also the divine feminine just calling back the masculine to bring her into matter, to bring her into physical form. Normally the feminine's been hidden. To call back the mother of source, Sophia, is what it's been shown to me, is that actually how we bring her back here to earth. And we do that as the vessels of that, with our own joy, with our own bliss and our own pleasure. We awaken the creatics, we awaken our womb, we awaken and we come into alignment and flow with her to create the new earth, to create the changes and the shifts and the different foundations that we will live and expand and grow from. But by doing that as the vessels of creators of that, we are moving in flow, joy, and abundance when we're completely in alignment to the benefit of all beings of Sophia, of what her desires are. We come into flow of that, and it just becomes so much easier to create when we're not fighting for what we think we want and actually align to that, which brings us back in joy and abundance. We're serving in a way that serves our joy. Where am I going with all this? Okay. And so let's just take a pause there, actually. Let's just take a breather. That's quite a lot to just comprehend, really, especially if you're beginning on this journey of like, well, how the hell do I want a man back when I'm carrying all this other stuff? And it's like, yeah, but they only come back when, when you've done this, when you really desire for them to return. Okay. And so the wild feminine, she burns shit down. She burns the ego, the identity that the male, the masculine carries, and all that they are. And but through a place of death and rebirth. And she holds that sacred passage for them through her womb, through her yoni, through her heart, but really through being able to speak her truth. And it may well be through sacred conscious sex and connection that enables that whole process to happen, but only through that conscious masculine to be ready to do that. And there comes trust there. There comes trust for the female, for the body, and then there's trust for the masculine, for the heart, for the man, for the heart, and to know that it's not a death and just absorption and taking for themselves. It's actually, which is what the female can do. There's a shadow to the feminine. Okay. The feminine could manipulate that power and just completely take the masculine down. So that's why there's that fear to allow to surrender their hearts to the female. But when there's that trust, when there's that unconditional love and the heart connection, this process can happen, this death and this rebirth of self to return to their true self, their true masculine, which is generally being vulnerable and allowing that to happen. And she takes him on that path. She takes him through that sacred passage of that death and rebirth. And she's the fire that does that. But she can only do that when obviously she's met forgiveness as well before she's called him back. So this is all about returning everything, everyone back to an innocence, back to their purity, back to who they truly, truly are through the heart of source. And I've also felt that how that fire of this embodied feminine, of the woman that's doing this work, will be the spark and light for other women to remember theirs. Like she's the spark of this of awakening for others, and her desire for other women to experience that and to step into their power, to find it, to do their healing, to let go of the suffering and the pain and that we've endured and still continue to do, but we break their patterns, is intense, and just so much love for our sisters to do that. So that came through. um, and then later, it's such fun, honestly, my body's been having such fun on its own. It's it showed me how to, that whole the yin and the yang. So you think of the yin and yang, the masculine and the feminine, but how they can spiral and come inward. So what I was visualizing was being truly held by, being spooned, as it were, by the divine masculine, but like being completely held, where your whole spine and your back and everything is protected. So you can just curl into your innocence that is the feminine, that is that pure, pure, pure light. And to be able to completely surrender and to be held and to be safe in that holding. Nothing's wanted, nothing's gained. You're purely, purely held, where you can soften deeper and deeper and deeper into self, which just felt like white light, just purity. So the white of the yin and the yang. And in doing so, how the masculine would feel that honor of holding that feminine, of holding the feminine, the honor of that purity and that innocence that she holds. And by doing that, his masculine energy just expands, just expands. I don't necessarily mean cock related, I'm sure that does as well, but it's like it goes deeper than that. Deeper is more heart expansion, where it's like, oh my God, this is so pure, so beautiful. I have to protect it. And it's just a natural response of the masculine when he's able to really truly hold the vulnerability and the pureness that is the feminine. He expands. And it showed me like ribs, which got my mind going. Well, Adam and ribs and the whole birthing of the feminine. It's like it's not necessarily the birthing that she's come from, it's the fact that it's actually this the rib cage, if you think about it, is what protects the whole thoracic area, the heart and the lungs, and the purity that sits there. And so this heart courageous expansion of protection is kind of saying grounds, like the masculine is very grounding. It's very, the feminine can be like woo up in the air and all floaty like water. And the ground is, it can be really masculine, that it's the riverbed that enables the water to flow. We have to have that. And so it's really grounding that heart protection, honor, and love of the feminine. It says nothing crosses this. Nothing crosses this. It's just like absolute discernment and protection of this purity, which I'd imagine men of daughters will feel that, you and that absolute divine protection of her pureness and her innocence. And I'm not saying this is moving into being the women that she's virgin. It's like she beholds that purity and this innocence. I can't quite put the words to it, but it's just showing me how us women carry this purity to return all of us back to this innocence and back to purity. We hold the capacity of empathy, of forgiveness, to be able to return and to alchemize. Not forgiveness to say, yeah, carry on with that shit. I'm just going to keep tolerating it and staying victim. It's like, no, it's this pure forgiveness that with the ultimate desire to bring back the masculine, to bring and release all pain and suffering and come back to love. It feels like the divine Sophia's desire of that is what she desires, this whole returning to innocence, her purity, her love, her unconditional love. And women hold this, something very sacred, which I feel is what has been tried to be attacked and taken. And unfortunately, what we see in the world with paedophilia and child abuse is this darkness that has tried to take that light, but never could. Never, never, ever could. It got held, it's been protected, it can never be taken. It's just the spirit and the fire that we feel that's been taken, but it's just waking that fire back up to go, it was never taken. It's always yours to reclaim, to come back to. And which is what the return to innocence was when I recorded back in 23. This is the journey of knowing that your soul has never been taken. Your soul light, your consciousness, your purity has never been taken. It's probably been held in earth, which I feel is why the grounding of the masculine is so important right now. God, it's so funny how everything starts to jigsaw up. I mean, this is 23. We're in 26 now. This is 3 years, and it's all starting to try and come together in terms of the picture. So the feminine that enables that divine masculine to feel this power and protection becomes a frequency embodied in our earth that enables this pureness and purity to return that's been held in earth, the Persephone, protected. And through that expansion, that whole shift of frequency, it returns to the innocence. Wow. Didn't realize that until I just started talking to you, to myself, to the video. Um, yeah, I'm just going to sit and breathe with that one. And this just, yeah, just take some breaths on that one for me. I was just going to see, I feel like I'm going to read something. What am I going to read? So the feminine has such grace to forgive, dissolve pain, is in its inherent calling of the Divine Mother to return her light and unconditional love, to return to the heart of source and one's innocence. Yet forgiveness is accessed purely through the portal of fire. The wild feminine of rage, of love, dismantles all to welcome the return of her masculine. I think we're going to have so much fun doing this. And I can feel the fun and the pleasure and the bliss of doing this as well. And like I say, I saw Yeshua and Mary Magdalene. It's like, it's going to be fun. This healing doesn't have to be hard anymore. It can be fun. And when you dream big, when you want big changes, and often those big changes are for others and for the world and how you want to make a change and difference in this world, those big dreams are what take you to the expansion, to choose your growth, to choose you're going to shift out of this old way of being, an old pattern, an old identity. So yeah, it's really interesting. And I just wanted to share that to you beautiful souls that will listen to this at some point. And I feel a never container coming on about the awakened feminine, the awakened, wild, embodied feminine. Anyway, lots of love, beauties. And thank you for listening.